Am I the antagonist for snapping at my friend's girlfriend when she wouldn't stop bringing up our past? My family friend Caleb and I made the mistake of dating when we were younger, ages 16, 18, on and off. It was a disaster of a relationship that was mostly driven by hormones and ended with hurt feelings. It took us a long time to get back to being friends and for gatherings between our families to not be awkward anymore. But now we are in a good place. I consider him a good friend, although not a very close one because we are both busy and live far apart. However, since I have known him my whole life, there will always be a bond between us. Caleb's girlfriend Gretchen is fixated on the fact that Caleb and I used to date. She constantly brings it up whenever we are in the same room. She will mention it even when it's not relevant to the conversation. For example, while discussing our favorite holiday destinations, she would ask if we went there together when we were dating. Or when we are in our hometown, she would ask if a particular place was where we used to go on dates. These questions feel unnecessary and invasive. She has even asked me inappropriate questions, like whether we lost our virginity to each other. I have told Caleb that her behavior is creepy, and she needs to stop dwelling on the past. He agrees but also thinks it's natural for her to be curious. I disagree. During a recent dinner with both of our families to celebrate Caleb's half-sister's birthday, Gretchen made a hurtful comment in front of everyone. When the little girl, who is 8 years old, said I was her favorite cousin, Gretchen remarked that I could have been her sister if I hadn't ended things with Caleb. I couldn't hold back my frustration and confronted Gretchen about her obsession with a brief relationship that happened almost a decade ago. I questioned why she was so fixated on it and pointed out that she talks about our past more than we actually spent in that relationship. This led to a heated exchange where I demanded an explanation from Gretchen, which caused tension among everyone present. Opinions are divided on whether I should have spoken up or remained silent, considering the circumstances. I am curious to know if I was wrong for addressing Gretchen's behavior instead of tolerating her constant reminders of our past relationship. Not the antagonist. It's normal for curiosity to arise, but continually bringing up the topic in front of others, especially both families, is just strange and excessive. After the first instance, setting boundaries by stating it's in the past and I'd prefer it to stay that way. No more questions, thanks, would have sufficed. Curiosity is one thing, but this behavior seems more like an obsession. If he chooses to tolerate it, that's up to him, but you don't have to entertain it. Am I the antagonist for switching everyone to decaf since they were all drinking my coffee? I live with 3 roommates, and we all try to get along. We are not perfect, but we try. I have a pod coffee machine that I like. It uses fully recyclable aluminum pods, not plastic. I leave it in the kitchen and I let everyone use it. It wasn't a problem when everyone bought their own pods. Then mine started going missing from my shelf. I asked, and none of my roommates admitted to taking them. It stopped for a while, then it started up again. So I started keeping my pods in my room. All was good in the world. I made the mistake of leaving an unopened box of my pods in the pantry on my shelf. When I went to get it, there were 5 missing. I know it is not a big deal. I know they cost about $1 each, but it is the principle of the thing. I bought a sleeve of decaf coffee and a sleeve of decaf double espresso. I opened them and left them on my shelf. They slowly disappeared over the week. I bought more. The whole experiment cost me about $40. On Friday, I asked everyone if they had taken my coffee and if they could please pay me so I could go pick up some more. I pointed to the 4 empty sleeves of coffee and said I had not had even one of those. So either fess up or I would consider all food in the house fair game until I felt I was even. All 3 confessed they had borrowed a pot or 2 since they did not have a machine, and none of them thought to pick any up. I said that if they each sent me $15, I would pick up 4 more sleeves and leave them out to share. They each sent me the money. It is the cost of like 3 cups at a coffee shop. After I got the money, I asked if they had any requests for the pods. They all said to get whatever had more caffeine. I said that would not be too hard since the sleeves they emptied were decaffeinated. Now they are pissed off that they drank decaf for a week. They were wondering why they had no energy. I just pointed at the sleeve where it clearly says that they are decaf. I suppose they didn't bother looking when they were stealing my coffee. They called me a jerk and said that I did it on purpose. They are upset, but not in any major way. But they do think I am a jerk for tricking them. One had the gall to jokingly ask for her money back. Not the antagonist for sure. It's unfortunate that the product they stole wasn't to their liking, but reading is fundamental, right? They can't be mad they didn't read. And saying you did it on purpose? That's just not fair. You even offered to pick up more and share if they each sent you $15. You're being generous, they just paid back what they stole. I think it's hilarious. Am I the antagonist for kicking one of my bridesmaids out of my wedding? For context, my fiancé does not have a sister, but he has a family friend. We will call her Sally, who is like his non-biological sister. My fiancé made my brother one of his groomsmen, so I decided to make Sally a bridesmaid. Sally was really excited because she said that her sister had intended to have her as a bridesmaid last summer, but didn't. This made me happy because Sally seemed to be genuinely happy and excited. Fast forward a few months and we have put together group chats for the bachelorette and wedding events. The first text I sent was a greeting, and I asked the girls to introduce themselves via text so that everyone has each other's numbers. Everyone responded except Sally. Weeks went by, the girls started asking about dress info, so I sent it to them. Still nothing from Sally. My sister started asking me who the extra number was in the chat, and I started to get worried, so I had Sally over for dinner. While she was over, I told her that I was concerned, and I needed her to respond to the group chat just so that we all know she is a part of it. She apologized and reassured me that I had nothing to worry about and that she was there for me whenever I needed something. Fast forward a month, Sally had said nothing in the group chat. The girls were now planning things for the bachelorette. My sister was ordering t-shirts, etc. So my sister was asking for everyone's shirt size among other things, and still nothing from Sally. I was really starting to stress over this because now my sister and other bridesmaids had noticed Sally's silence, and they were texting me separately about it. I told my fiancé and he decided to reach out to Sally since she is technically from his side. My fiancé sent a text asking Sally if she plans to be a part of the wedding because we had not heard from her and it was really stressing me out. Sally got back to my fiancé with an angry text and sent me one as well. She said that we were asking too much of her and that she had to focus on herself. She also said that I needed to stop worrying and that she was past exhaustion trying to show up for herself. I responded saying that we understood if she was going through something, but she needed to participate if she wanted to be a part of this. I told her that we loved her and she was not alone and that we were here if she needed anything. This was a month ago, and I haven't heard anything since, so I have decided to remove her from the bridal party. Still planning on sending an invite though. So, am I the asshole for kicking her out of the bridal party? Not the antagonist. It's frustrating when someone in your wedding party isn't stepping up and causing unnecessary stress. Sally had the chance to bow out if she couldn't handle it, but she didn't. You did what needed to be done. Just make sure to save those texts for later, in case she tries to twist the situation. She may try to play the victim, but she's the in this scenario. Am I the antagonist for telling my parent I don't want my child to be like me? I want to start by saying that I did, in fact, have a really good childhood. I was fed, well-groomed, and overall had everything I needed. This is not going to be something where I'm ungrateful. I, a 43-year-old female, have a daughter named Kendra, fake name, who is 15 years old. My daughter for the last year or so has been hugely obsessed with celebrities like Taylor Swift. It has become a focal point in her life to talk about Taylor Swift's music or Easter eggs. I think that's correct. Honestly, I don't see anything wrong with this. Maybe a little concern over how much she knows, but nothing that raises red flags. I'm happy knowing that this is what occupies her time instead of something truly worrying. I'm heavily emphasizing this because a year ago my daughter was so depressed she couldn't get out of bed. Now the issue at hand is that when I was growing up, my mother would never allow us to over-obsess about anything. It's hard to describe, but most of my childhood rules were to sit, be quiet, and obey. I've limited my contact with my mom due to this stifling upbringing, but I've let her back in. This past weekend, my family, including my mom, were sitting and watching TV. Taylor Swift briefly popped up on the screen, and Kendra began talking to her brother about it, also a casual fan. No one was paying attention until my mom asked Kendra, "When are you going to grow up?" I snapped at her to leave it, but she kept telling Kendra that she was sick and tired of hearing about Taylor. I got defensive, saying Kendra hadn't brought her up this entire time, nor had she in the last few visits. We kept going back and forth, and I asked my kids to leave the room. My mom brought up the fact that Kendra posts frequently about Taylor Swift on her Instagram, and I finally snapped, saying I don't mind because at least she feels like she can without judgment. I kept yelling about the fact that I was never able to talk about my interests or hobbies growing up, so I don't care if Kendra gets Taylor Swift tattooed on her forehead if it makes her happy. My kids aren't spoiled. All I did was give them the freedom to love what they love. My mom yelled and called me ungrateful and several other words before storming out. Am I the asshole? Not the antagonist. Your mom should be giving your daughter space to be herself, not criticizing her interests. It sounds like you did the right thing by standing up for your daughter and setting boundaries with your mom. It's important to protect your daughter from someone who can't accept her for who she is. Good on you for creating a safe and supportive home environment for her to thrive in. Am I the antagonist for refusing to stay at my parents' house while my husband is abroad? My parents are very difficult individuals with many toxic traits, although I still love them. A year ago, my husband and I relocated to a city that is about a 2.5-hour drive away. We made this move due to the constant nagging and attempts to control our lives by my parents. I am really enjoying our new city, have made new friends, and we have a 2-year-old child with whom we go on playdates and follow a schedule. Additionally, our child goes to daycare. All of my in-laws reside in another country, so my husband occasionally visits them alone. As a family, we visit them in the summer and stay for 2 weeks. My husband is planning to visit his family for about a week. Recently, my mother called me and inquired about my plans to stay with them for the week. I was surprised by her assumption, as I had not intended to visit them during that time. When I asked for clarification, she seemed upset and mentioned that she expected us to stay with them while my husband was away. I explained that I had not planned on it but would consider the suggestion. A few nights later, she called again and asked when they should pick me up on Friday. Since we usually take the train when visiting them due to not having a car, I asked where I was going that required a ride. This led to an argument. She accused me of keeping their grandson away from them, labeling me as selfish and inconsiderate. She expressed their desire to see him since they miss him. I reminded them that they were welcome to visit us anytime, but emphasized that I am an adult capable of making my own decisions. I have several reasons for not wanting to go. 1. I am not very close to my parents. We saw them just a couple of weeks ago for 3 days. 2. My life is centered here now, as I work remotely and all my equipment is here. 3. They own a cat to which my son becomes very attached, and he would be extremely sad and cry for days if separated from her. 4. I value having some time to myself. I explained all these reasons to my mother, but she failed to understand my perspective. I finally told her not to bring up this topic again or show up uninvited at my place, and then hung up. In response, she texted me, calling me a brat, and suggesting that I should be ashamed of my behavior. Am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? Not the antagonist. You're an adult and a parent, so you decide when to visit your difficult parents and ask if it's a good time. It's so bizarre they assumed you'd stay with them while your husband is away. Lay down the law politely and say, no, thanks. Your reasons are valid. No need to feel embarrassed or act like a brat. Am I the antagonist for wearing white to my cousin's wedding? My 25-year-old female cousin Dan, 29-year-old male, got married to the love of his life, L, 28-year-old female, last weekend. They both like taking part in our country's traditions, which is why the dress code was traditional clothing. If you want to get a feel for what that looks like, Google dirndl. Everyone in my family owns one. However, mine consists of a short ivory dress with dirty pink flowers, pink embellishments, and a pink apron. As you can imagine, traditional wear is not cheap, and since money is tight for me at the moment, I knew I would not be able to afford a new dress, and I already checked if I could borrow one from someone else. So I texted Dan to ask what I should do. These were my suggestions. 1. Wear the dress I have. He and Kristen know the dress since I wear it pretty regularly at family functions. 2. Wear a non-traditional dress in a more appropriate color. 3. Buy a man. Use the money I had saved as a wedding present to buy a new dress. Dan said that he talked to Elle and wearing a non-traditional dress was not an option since I would stick out too much. But since my dress is not white all over, it's okay if I wear it since Elle's dress is going to be a huge ball gown anyway, so there is just no way my dress would be in competition with it. The weekend came, I wore the dress, and immediately, I got dirty looks from Elle's family. I just assumed they were not aware that my dress was pre-approved by the bride and groom. Shortly before the ceremony, the maid of honor took me aside and asked if I had anything else I could change into. I informed her that I talked to Elle beforehand, and she said, I know, but her mom sent her a picture of you, and Elle said the dress is a lot more white than she remembered, and it's really stressing her out now. I felt really bad, but the best I could offer was getting my leather jacket from the car. But since the jacket doesn't match the dress code, she just asked me to sit in the back and stay in the back rows for pictures, which kinda sucks since I'm short, but it's her day, so I didn't want to argue. The whole thing was really uncomfortable, and made even more so by Elle's family constantly talking negatively about me, just loud enough to hear it. I talked to Dan in a quiet moment, and he apologized for the whole thing but said that Elle was still really upset, and I should give her a few days before trying to talk to her. I don't know what to make of this. I feel terrible for causing her so much stress, but I feel like it isn't really my fault. My family is kinda split about it, with one saying I did everything I could, and the other saying I should have known better and just brought a non-traditional dress for this case. What do you think? Am I the jerk here? My flowers are a little smaller, and pink is less saturated. ATT piece. Tractonshop.media. Image, 93. Not the antagonist. You identified the issue early, discussed it with the couple, and even wore what they asked you to wear to the wedding. Elle misremembering your dress is on her, as she made choices that didn't pan out. She should have owned her role at the wedding and not sulked like a child. Her mom causing drama by sending a picture of your dress was just unnecessary. Dan marrying into a family of us must be tough. You acted reasonably offering multiple options before the wedding, and given the cultural drama, it's an easy judgment. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.